Hey everybody, welcome back to another DWD Technology Group Sage Intacct tip. This is Logan Lemon. I'm a consultant here at DWD, and in this video we're going to talk about how to create a custom report for user permissions. So we have a lot of clients that use roles and have many users, and so when it's time to report on internal controls, either for the auditor or to do your annual, quarterly, monthly reviews for controls. It can be time consuming or challenging to get all the necessary information quickly and in a form that's easy to evaluate. So, for starters, I'm here in Intacct. I'm going to go and just show you the users that I have in my system first. So, if I go to Company, the Admin tab, and then Users, I see all of the users in my company. Now, a general recommendation is if you're on a system of 4 or more users, then we would recommend you use role-based permissions. And so you can enable that in the company setup. You would just turn on role-based permissions instead of user-based permissions. And once you do that, you would see over here on the side of your user, you now have access to this view permissions and roles. Now, this is the out-of-the-box user permissions report for the individual user. So if I wanted to see the permissions and roles on this single admin user, I can click view permissions and roles, expand this, and I have the option to see what their permissions report is, the roles that they're in, or any user groups that they might be in. Doesn't look like they're in any here, but the permissions report is how we can identify what areas of the system they have access to and if we might need to make any adjustments to our controls. But if I had to pull this report, I can export these permissions. If I had to pull this report for each user of my 16 users, that would be pretty time consuming. And so now I'm going to show you a custom report that we can build to run all of the permissions reports at the same time and get it into a usable format. So if I have permission to create custom reports, I'm going to go to Company, and where's my Platform Services, Custom Reports. When I'm here, you'll see I have a lot of custom reports. I've actually created a copy of this report already, so I'm just going to jump into here and walk you through it as if I was creating it again. So if I was creating this report from scratch, I would click Add up in the top right. Instead, I'm going to click Edit, and it takes me to our custom report wizard. So on step 1, the data source that we're going to be looking at is the role users. Okay, and that's going to allow us to see the roles and the users that are under those roles. After that, step 2 in our custom report wizard is going to be choosing the data fields that we want in our report. And so there's only a couple that really matter here. For starters, the user login ID is helpful to have, the role name, and the role policy assignments are going to be the primary data we're looking for here. So we have the module, the policy name, and the policy value. Now I've also added username because I wanted that extra information instead of just the user login ID. Some of my users have different usernames that help me more easily identify them. So I went ahead and added these. You could add any of these other. There are a variety of data fields on here that may be helpful for your use case, but this is going to get you a good foundation for what you're working on. So after I've selected the data fields, I'm going to go next. There's going to be a couple prompts in here that aren't very useful to me for this type of report. For example, add calculated columns. I don't need to do anything for that. I'm going to continue on through. Once I hit the column sequence, depending on what the order of your column sequence is, I can adjust these. So maybe I want to add username up under here next to my user login ID so I can more clearly see here's my login ID, here's my user's username. And then from there, I have the roles, the modules, and permissions. So I'm going to modify that order and continue on. I'm going to pause here for a sec. If you want to take a screenshot of this, this is how I would most easily identify what fields and what order you might want to. You can also rename any of these fields if you wanted to for some reason. You could remove it and just call it login ID. Following that, here's another field that's not going to be relevant for this type of report. We don't need column totals. Next, I can choose the order of my columns. So I did want to order this by my login ID and role name and role policy so that it has a nice grouping of all of my user information is collected together. Then I have all my role information collected together and then my relative role policies. So you can take a screenshot of this and try and experiment with that as well. I'm going to move on to the next section. We don't need any filters on this report. We just want to be able to see all users if we choose to. Next, grouping is going to be an important aspect for this report. So I want to turn on grouping data. So I would turn the radio dot defaults to no grouping. I'm going to turn it to grouping. I want to group this data by user ID. So when I see this report, I see all of my user ID data grouped together with its relative modules and permissions. And I'll show you what that looks like here at the end. You can just kind of choose this and follow along. I just have one grouping, so I don't need to worry about ordering it. If I wanted to set a footer, a title, I can do that here. I don't really care about that so much. I don't really want to run this as a chart, so that doesn't matter to me. I'm going to continue on. Now, additional prompts when the report is run might be different for each use case. In this report, I have it optional so I can run it by user ID so that if I wanted to see just one user, I could do that. You could also do it if you wanted to see all permissions for accounts payable. I could turn on a module underneath my roles here if I wanted to do something like that. There are other ways that you can choose to prompt this report, but for the most part, I'm just going to be running this wide open most of the time, so no prompts. After that, if I had multiple prompts, I could order these, organize them. I'm going to continue on to my last step here, where I'm going to choose the name of my report. I've already saved this and called it my user permissions report. I'd recommend calling it something that's useful to you, user permissions. I can add this to a menu if I choose to. I'm going to not because I don't run this report on a regular enough basis where I want it in an application. But if I did, I could add it to a menu in any of the applications. I could also add a description to help other users see what this report is about. And I want to make sure this is active. So after that, I would save this report. It's going to take me back out to my list of custom reports. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and find it, and I want to run it to show you what it looks like. You'll see my prompt here. I could choose a user ID if I wanted to. I'm going to run this wide open so you see what this looks like, and click View. Check out this custom report for user permissions. So we see over here, our roles and permissions are grouped by user. I have my login ID, username. It looks like admin doesn't have a username. I can condense these to scroll. I could condense or scroll them down to see different users. If I want to re-expand this again, it's going to think here for a second. Excellent. I can also export this report if I chose to. I can email this report. I can process it and store and view it later. A lot of times I would say the export feature is going to be the most useful, especially if I needed to send a permissions report to my auditors for internal control review, or I wanted to put this into Excel and run any type of analysis on it. Awesome. So I hope you found this custom report to be useful for user permissions, and I look forward to seeing you on our next Sage Intacct Tech Tip with DWD Technology Group. Thanks.